Hello and welcome back to the workshop. Bit of a different day outside. Just came across here, tipping down with rain. So not the hot sunshine we've had for the last few weeks. Haven't had a clock of the week for a little while. Here's one for you, a Percival 8-day. Sort of looks a bit Art Deco-y. Strikes on the hour and a half. Going nicely now. Anyway, moving back to toy trains. What shall we talk about this week? Well, I haven't really made any progress with the main layout. In fact, it's a bit of a backward step really, because I'm now unsure about the original track plan I chose, because I've seen a nicer one. So I'm going to have to think about that. It does involve making the baseboard slightly bigger, but I think I've got to be happy with what I'm doing, so I'll think about that a bit more. I've been running a few different trains on the test track to sort of test out nickel wheels, Magna Hension. I've got a Lord of the Isles on there at the moment, and you'll see that in a little while. It would originally on the nickel track barely pull 4 coaches, but it's pulling 5 now because I remagnetised the Magna Hension magnet. So it pulls 5, not bad, but 4 beautifully. So I'm pretty happy with that, considering it's just a single. Now down here, sticking with the Triang, I've got a Triang Wrenn 8F, the 280 heavy freight locomotive. Now this brief collaboration with Wrenn produced some of the old Hornby locomotives, and when I say Hornby I mean Hornby Dublo, in a new guise. Super detailed for the time, heavy and very expensive. So we're going to have a look at that today, and as we've got a loop of Dublo track up there, we'll have a look at its original iteration. And this hasn't got the ring-field motor like the Wrenn one. This has got the 1/2-inch Dublo motor, which is very similar to an XO4 but much longer. But it is detachable from the chassis, not part of the chassis like most of the previous Dublos were. So we've got those to run. I mean, talking about detail, I saw one of the new Hornby locomotives on the internet the other day, and it's actually even got representations of the sight glasses in the cab. Little pieces of plastic, beautifully printed out in there. And it set my mind back to when detailing sort of started to creep in. My brother collects mainline railways, Palitoy mainline. And thinking back now, they were probably responsible for one of the big jumps in detailing. Their locomotives had much finer detailing, finer handrails, you know, much better mouldings, even though they suffered sort of mechanical issues, which are easily fixable now. They really started changing the game. And the rolling stock, which is also very collectible today, you know, wonderful wagons, beautiful printing, you know, a credit to any layout. I don't have any myself, but they are wonderful things, and as I say, my brother's collecting them, and they're wonderful to look at. But anyway, moving back to the Triang, we will take these two up to the test layout and run them round and compare old with new. So I'll just finish my cup of tea, and then I'll see you upstairs and we'll run a couple of engines. So I'll see you up there in a minute. Well, welcome back to the test layout, and as I said downstairs, I've been running this Lord of the Isles, this Dean single, so let's just take a look at it going around the test track. Now, as I mentioned, I have remagnetised the Magna Hension on this, and it's pulling 5 coaches quite nicely. I mean, it's getting better as it runs actually. We'll just let it go round a little while and then I'll see if I can slow it down a bit. Running nice and quietly on the nickel rails. Anyway, I'll just get back to the controller and we'll see if we can reduce the speed a little. Try and get some nice shots of this running round. Now if you look at the back of the layout there, you can see the Dublo 8F and the Wrenn 8F on the inner loop. We'll be looking at those in a minute, but I just thought we'd take a look at this Lord of the Isles, pulling this nice rake of coaches first. It was very noisy when I first got it on the track, so I did take it apart and give it a good clean, set it all up, lubricated the worm and the gears with white grease, and it is now running quite nicely. Handling the points well as well. So that's the Lord of the Isles, so we'll get this off the layout now and start looking at the heavy freight locos. Okay, so I've got the Lord of the Isles and the coaches off the railway. I've added a track cleaning wagon and we're going to get this Triang Wrenn 8F connected to the freight train and out on the outer loop. I think that's attached. Let's see if we can pull this through the points with no drama. A little bit of wheel slip there, but to be expected, I think, with the addition of the track cleaning wagon. And I'll just let this go around a few circuits. Pulling hard there, decent length train. Let's see if we can get some nice shots. Coming around the back of the nickel plated track. Working hard. Doesn't seem to have any problem pulling this freight train on the slippery track, but it is exceptionally heavy. Has a large piece of lead in the actual boiler section of this model to help with grip, but running beautifully. The model is a little bit tight, it hasn't seen a lot of track time. Great detail on this loco for a die-cast model. And the Ringfield motor is a lovely smooth pulling motor. Okay, well I think while that's running around quite nicely, we might bring out the older Hornby Dublo version onto the Hornby Dublo test track and watch them both going round together. Dublo version working hard. Rivet detail there on the tender and the cab roof, very nice. Great to see these two heavy freight locomotives working together at the same time. Obviously this Dublo version not having the plated wheels. I believe the last later versions with the ring-filled motors, some of them have plated wheels. And it looks to me like someone's touched in the springs on the tender with white paint. I don't think that's original. Let's move back to the Wrenn version here. Two models will be side by side in a minute, hopefully. Great shot there. So the Dublo is a British Rail version, and as I've said before, this Wrenn is the LMS. Well, both of those are performing quite nicely. Then bring the Dublo one to a halt at the back of the layout. Then I'm going to attempt to reverse this long freight train in to the inner loop. So I am going to be attempting the reverse around this second radius curve. So if there's any mischief with the couplings, we'll soon know. Right, we're moving. Very smooth, this ring field. Nicely over the points. To a halt. Okay, well I'm just going to take this Wrenn off and then just finally run the track cleaning wagon round with Triangzone heavy goods locomotive. Now the reason I'm not pulling any more is because the traction tyres on this locomotive, and that will give you a clue what I'm going to bring out, are loose on the wheels. So here we have R.550, the 9F. Tender drive. Forgot the points there. Now, unfortunately, it's even struggling to pull that at the moment. So I need to get some more traction tyres because they've swollen and they're loose on the rims. Now this is obviously the black version of the Evening Star, the 9F. Being the Triang heavy goods version. Now I'm just going to slow this down a bit so we can get an idea of the detail on this locomotive. Now when it comes to heavy freight, I don't think there's any more powerful steam locomotive than this 9F 210. And it is indeed a fantastic model. A lot of people have various things to say about the tender drive, and indeed Hornby later on moved back to locomotive drive, but I think it's a thing of its time. I mean, it certainly runs very smoothly. I mean, I will show you it again once I've got the new traction tyres. I mean, slow speed running is absolutely excellent with this. Very quiet, and it does indeed look the part. So I'll leave it up to you to decide whether you like the Triang 21009F or the Hornby Dublo based 8F best. But I think they both equally deserve a place on the layout. Well, I think that's about all of it for this week. I hope you found some of it interesting. Next week I'm aiming to hopefully have a main layout update. I think we've explored the capabilities of the nickel track over the last couple of weeks enough to realise that it's perfectly serviceable for what I want to do. I've run a variety of different trains, steel wheeled, nickel wheeled, different weights, and they all perform really well. So for now I think that's all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll leave you with this magnificent heavy goods locomotive and say goodbye.